Hello friends. Before we start, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with where you're from and what time you're watching. That way, YouTube will keep showing you stories just like this one. Now, let's begin. When this happened, I wasn't proud of the person I was. I was 20 years old, living in the outskirts of Boise, Idaho, crashing in my parents' old split-level house while trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I wasn't working. I wasn't studying. I wasn't doing anything meaningful. I was addicted to online games, not competitive esports, not social games. I'm talking about obscure browser-based junk, experimental stuff, half-finished indie projects, strange simulations that barely worked. I liked them because they felt hidden, like things most people never found. At the time, my own laptop was dead, fried motherboard. I didn't have money to fix it. So whenever my parents were asleep or out, I used my older brother's computer without asking. My brother, Marcus, was the complete opposite of me. Graduate student, cybersecurity focus, worked remotely for a defense contractor in Salt Lake City. His setup looked like something out of a crime lab. Multiple monitors, external drives, encrypted folders, network tools I didn't understand. He warned me constantly not to touch his system. I ignored him. One night, late fall, rain tapping against the windows, I felt that familiar boredom creeping in. That restless itch where nothing felt entertaining anymore. So I slipped into Marcus's office, closed the door, and powered on his desktop. The screen glowed softly in the dark room. I opened the browser and typed what I always typed. Cool games, not boring. Yeah, real intellectual stuff. I started clicking through search results. Most were familiar. Same sketchy sites. Same broken flash games. Same cheap ads. That's when something odd happened. A small pop-up appeared in the top right corner of the screen. No animation, no flashy graphics, just plain black background. And 2 words in deep red text. Death games. I froze. Pop-ups weren't unusual back then, especially on those kinds of sites. But this one felt deliberate, like it wasn't selling anything, like it was waiting. The box didn't blink, didn't move, didn't disappear. Against my better judgment, I hovered my mouse over it. The cursor changed. I clicked. The browser redirected instantly. No loading screen, no buffering, just black. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then text slowly faded in. Hello. Another pause. Then more text appeared underneath. Do you want to watch someone die? The letters were red, uneven, dripping downward like liquid. I actually laughed. Out loud. It looked cheap. Edgy. Like something a teenager coded to shock people. A button appeared beneath the text. Submit. I shook my head, smirking. Then the text changed. What's wrong? Scared? Don't be. It's just a game. The submit button began to blink. I sighed and leaned back in the chair. I told myself it was fake, a prank, some twisted horror game. I clicked submit. The screen flashed white. Then an animation loaded. It looked awful. Crude drawings, low frame rate, almost childish. 3 characters stood in a poorly rendered room, 2 men and a woman. The men wore cartoonish black masks and striped shirts, like parody bank robbers. The woman sat in a chair, shaking exaggeratedly, her face frozen in fear. Her whimpering was looped and mechanical. Cheap horror, or so I thought. One of the masked men turned toward the screen, toward me, and smiled. I swear, I whispered, that thing is looking at me. A distorted voice spoke, filtered heavily. Do you want to see her die? 2 buttons appeared. Yes. No. I hesitated. Something about the timing felt off. The way the character waited. The way the sound didn't loop like a normal game. Then the man spoke again, irritation creeping into his tone. You clicked the link. You stayed. You want to know what happens next? It's just a game. Click. My finger hovered, and I clicked. Yes. The second masked man walked off screen. When he returned, he wore a butcher's apron. Behind him appeared an operating table, drawn crudely but stocked with tools. The animation quality didn't improve. The sound did. When the saw started, it didn't sound fake. It sounded heavy. Metal grinding against resistance. The woman's scream cut through my speakers. Not a stock sound, not looped. It cracked. It wavered. It broke. The animation showed exaggerated movements, limbs separating cartoonishly. But the audio was wrong, wet, thick, real. I felt goosebumps crawl up my arms, bone cracking, gurgling, muffled screams as something obstructed her mouth. I told myself it was just great sound design. But my stomach twisted. When it ended, the room fell silent. Text appeared. Did you like it? Before I could think, another prompt popped up. Yes, I don't remember clicking. I just remember the next scene loading. This time, the animation showed the same two men, but in scuba gear. The third figure wasn't a woman anymore. It was a man in a business suit, hands tied, standing at the edge of a large pond. The water was dark. Still. A sign appeared. Do you want to watch him die? I swallowed hard. Clicked yes. The diver grabbed the man's ankles and dragged him screaming into the water. The audio was unbearable. Panic, splashing, bubbles, desperate choking. The animation paused on the water's surface. 30 seconds passed. Then the man burst back up, screaming, and something pulled him down. He resurfaced again. This time, his arms were gone. Red scribbles indicated damage, but the sound was of something tearing. Not cutting, tearing. Then the water erupted. A massive shape surfaced briefly. An alligator. It dragged him under. Silence. I leaned back, heart pounding. This isn't fun, I muttered. I moved my mouse toward the close button. The screen glitched. The animation vanished. The video feed changed. Now it wasn't drawings. It was real. Two men in white masks stood in a gray room. Between them lay a dismembered female body. One of them held a clothes hook. On it hung a torn, soaked business suit. A voice spoke, the same distorted one. You enjoyed watching? You wanted more. So we showed you. You witnessed. Now don't leave. My hands shook. I realized the animations weren't games. They were filters, covering real footage. 3 options appeared. Yes, I want to experiment. No, I don't want to experiment. I want to meet you. I slammed no. Nothing happened. The voice returned, angrier. You don't get to say no. You already chose. My chest tightened. My breathing went shallow. I smashed the mouse, clicked no again and again. The screen froze. Then the browser crashed. I yanked the power cable from the wall. The room went dark. I sat there, shaking. When Marcus came home, he found me still in the chair. I told him everything. He didn't laugh. He shut the door, locked it, pulled up system monitors I'd never seen, disconnected the router, changed hardware keys. When I asked if it was real, he nodded once, then said something I'll never forget. You didn't find them. They found you. He told me not to talk about it, not to search it, not to tell anyone. The next day, he said it was handled. I never asked how. But sometimes, late at night, I still think about that blinking button, waiting. I'll start this story by being honest about something most people wouldn't admit out loud. I was addicted. Not to parties, not to chaos, not even to danger. My vice was weed. It was the one thing that kept my head quiet, the one thing that slowed the noise down enough for me to function. I lived alone in a small apartment in Tacoma, Washington, worked part-time at a printing shop, and went to community college when I felt motivated enough to show up. Most days blurred together. Normally, if I wanted something stronger than weed, I had a reliable friend who handled that side of things. Quiet guy, no drama, cash only, no questions. But one winter, he disappeared. No warning, no explanation. And withdrawals have a way of making curiosity louder than fear. A former college friend, someone I hadn't seen in months, casually mentioned that I could just order online. When I asked what he meant, he leaned closer and lowered his voice like we were in a bad movie. The deep web. At the time, the words meant nothing to me. He explained it vaguely. Too vaguely. Said it was easy. Said it was safer than meeting strangers. Then he downloaded a browser on my laptop, scribbled down 3 long, ugly URLs on a piece of paper, and told me I'd find anything there. And when he said anything, he meant it. From the usual stuff to things I didn't even know existed. What shocked me wasn't the variety. It was how simple it was. A few clicks, a few digital transfers, no faces, no voices. And then, days later, packages quietly appeared in my mailbox. No return address, no questions. At first, I only used the sites my friend gave me. I stayed in my lane, told myself I was being careful. But I've always been curious. And the dark web is a dangerous place for curious people. One night, I was sober. That alone should have been a warning sign. I was home, restless, staring at the walls, my brain searching for something, anything, to latch onto. So instead of lighting up, I opened the browser again, just to look. That's how it always starts. If you've ever been on the dark web, you know you can't just type what you're looking for and expect results. There's no search bar that gives you red rooms or hitmen for hire. You have to find the doors first. And that night, I actively searched for the worst. I scrolled through forums, outdated blogs, comment sections full of half-truths and fear. Most links were dead. Others were obvious scams. I was about to give up when I clicked a subreddit thread buried so deep it felt forgotten. The post was plain, no description, just a title. Murder and the Life of the Murderer. Services. Below, it was a single line of random letters and numbers. A link. I hesitated, then copied it. When I pasted it into the browser, it worked. Before I could even think, the page loaded. Black background, green text. At the top, Assassination and Life Destruction Services. Next to it, a crude skull graphic inside what looked like a tunnel. I laughed, out loud. It looked ridiculous, like an edgy teenager's idea of horror. But the laughter faded as I scrolled. The text listed methods. Clean ones, messy ones, public ones, quiet ones. Each described casually, professionally. To the right, a small box read, Place Order. I told myself it was fake, role play, shock content. I almost clicked it just to see what would happen. Almost. Then there was a knock at my door. I jumped. It was late, and I lived alone. When I opened it, relief hit me immediately. It was Caleb, my dealer, smiling, holding a vacuum-sealed bag like a peace offering. I let him in. We smoked. A lot. After that, the night disappears from my memory like someone cut the tape. The next thing I remember is waking up on my couch at around 9 in the morning. Head pounding. Mouth dry. sunlight pouring through the blinds. I assumed I'd passed out early. I made coffee, booted up my computer, planned to waste the day gaming. Then I saw the screen, an order confirmation page. Client, verified target, confirmed. The name listed was mine. I stared at it, confused, then laughed. Nervous laughter. Who the hell orders something like that while high? But then I saw the email. Your request has been accepted. The contractor is en route. My stomach dropped. I told myself it was a prank. But that night, a dark sedan parked across the street from my apartment. It sat there, engine off, lights out, watching. I stood frozen at the kitchen window, heart racing. I didn't own a gun, didn't have a dog, didn't have anyone nearby. I grabbed a kitchen knife, slipped on a hoodie, and walked outside. I don't know where the courage came from. Maybe fear. Maybe stupidity. I crossed the street and knocked on the driver's window. Nothing. I leaned closer. The car was empty. I waited. 30 minutes passed. I went back inside. 1 minute later, I looked again. The car was gone. No sound, no movement. Then the power went out. Total darkness. I stood there, waiting to die. 30 seconds later, the lights came back on, and someone knocked at my door. Slow, deliberate. No answer when I asked who it was. Eventually, I opened the door. No one there, just a black envelope on the floor. Inside were photographs of me, taken through my own screen, time-stamped, and a handwritten note. Do not play with things you don't understand. You were lucky. Stay away. I vomited, formatted my computer, and never went back. Because sometimes curiosity doesn't just kill the cat. Sometimes it watches you first. I will never forget the first time we stumbled onto the idea of the deep web. Not because it was mysterious at first, but because of how casually it entered our lives. Back then, I was a high school student living in Fort Collins, Colorado, the kind of quiet American town where nothing ever really happened. Suburban streets, identical houses, lawns trimmed every Saturday morning, parents who believed that as long as you were home by dinner, you were safe. They were wrong. My friends and I grew up in the early 2000s, the first generation that had high-speed internet, personal computers in our bedrooms, and almost no supervision online. We were raised on dial-up myths and broadband freedom. We were obsessed with internet urban legends, not ghosts or campfire stories, but digital ones, hidden websites, lost videos, cursed files, things that weren't meant to be found. Every afternoon after school, we crowded into my room, sitting cross-legged on the floor or slouched in desk chairs, scrolling endlessly through Reddit threads, old message boards, and anonymous forums. We didn't know what we were looking for. That was the appeal. The internet felt infinite, unpredictable, like a dark ocean where you never knew what would surface next. Back then, downloading anything felt dangerous. Platforms like LimeWire and Kazaa were digital roulette wheels. One moment you thought you were downloading a rock song. Next thing you knew, your screen froze or something disturbing flashed before you could close it. That unpredictability fascinated us, and slowly, inevitably, we started hearing whispers about something deeper. The deep web. At first it sounded fake, a myth invented to scare kids like us. But the more we read, the more stories surfaced. Hidden marketplaces, anonymous networks, places where rules didn't apply. At school, people talked about it like it was a forbidden country. They sell anything there. You can't leave once they notice you. Hackers watch you the moment you enter. Every rumor contradicted the last, which only made it more attractive. To us, the deep web felt like the last unexplored frontier, a place untouched by parents, teachers, or filters. Naturally, we wanted in. We researched obsessively, read guides, argued about what was real and what was exaggerated. None of us wanted to use our own computers. We'd heard too many stories about people getting hacked, tracked, blackmailed. Our plan was to buy a cheap second-hand laptop and use it only for that. But plans require patience, and patience wasn't something I had. One weekend, tired of waiting, I made a decision on my own. I would do it from my home computer. I won't explain how I got access. Not because it's complicated, but because I don't want anyone repeating my mistakes. All I'll say is that it required a special browser, a few configuration changes, and blind confidence. Getting in wasn't hard. Navigating was. The deep web doesn't work like the normal internet. No Google, no familiar URLs. You need exact addresses, long strings of characters that look meaningless unless you already know where they lead. It's designed that way on purpose, to keep people out. I spent days preparing, reading warnings, watching videos, asking questions anonymously on forums. Almost everyone told me the same thing. Don't do it. Eventually, someone sent me a link, a massive list of addresses, thousands of them. When I opened it, I felt dizzy. So many doors, so many unknowns. I clicked the first link, dead site. Second link, dead. Third, dead. I felt stupid, like I'd been scammed. 10 links in, nothing. 20, still nothing. But I wasn't about to quit. I'd spent months hyping this up to my friends. So I skipped ahead, clicked something that looked different. This time, the page loaded. It was a marketplace, and not the kind you'd find on Amazon. Everything felt wrong. The layout, the descriptions, the casual way illegal things were listed. One site specialized in bodily substances. Another advertised things I don't even want to describe. I stayed longer than I should have. I told myself I was researching, documenting, being careful. When I told my friends what I'd found, they were stunned. They came over almost every day after school, usually when my parents were at work. We'd close the blinds, lower the volume, and explore together, copying random addresses from that list. Some sites were dead, some were disturbing, some were so casually evil that it felt unreal. After a while, we made our own list. Sites that worked, sites that didn't. That's when we found the forums. One of them claimed to host professional assassins. Each profile listed services, prices, regions. Some asked for tens of thousands of dollars. Others listed prices that made no sense at all. We argued whether it was real or role play. Curiosity won. We created an account, barely filled in any information. Days passed. Nothing happened. Then one afternoon, something strange appeared on my screen. A tiny blue circle in the top right corner. It looked like an eyeball. At first, I ignored it, thought it was a browser glitch. But when everyone left, I noticed it was still there, even after closing everything. I restarted. It stayed. I ran antivirus scans. Nothing. That blue eye didn't blink, didn't move, just watched. Weeks passed. We kept exploring. Then one day, it vanished. We laughed. Relieved. Minutes later, a gray text box appeared. A message. I've been monitoring your activity. My heart stopped. The administrator explained everything. How visible we were. How exposed. How someone had been tracking us. The blue eye. A hitchhiker. When we questioned him, he responded with our names. Our parents' names. Our address. Then the warning. There are two ways to learn this isn't a game: the easy way or the hard way. The connection dropped. The room went silent. I unplugged everything, destroyed the router, and I never went back. Because some doors, once noticed, never fully close. I was 14 years old when everything began to fall apart. I won't pretend I was some brave kid who stood up for himself. I wasn't. I was the quiet one, the skinny one, the kid who sat at the edge of the classroom, always hoping the bell would ring before someone noticed I existed. I grew up in Springfield, Illinois, a town that looks peaceful on postcards. Tree-lined streets, red brick schools, Friday night football games where everyone pretends life is perfect. But inside those hallways, perfection doesn't exist. Only predators and prey. I was prey. Small frame, glasses too big for my face, a voice that cracked when I was nervous, which was all the time. And on top of everything else, I was gay. Not openly, not proudly. Just quietly terrified someone would find out. Kids sense weakness like sharks smell blood. By middle school, the bullying wasn't occasional. It was routine. Locker shoves, books knocked out of my hands, whispered slurs that followed me down hallways like shadows. Teachers saw but didn't see. Administrators heard but didn't listen. By freshman year of high school, it became systematic. There was a group of guys who ran the school like their personal hunting ground. They weren't the stereotypical movie bullies. They were worse, smart enough to avoid cameras, cruel enough to enjoy the slow destruction of someone else. The leader was Marc Henson. Tall, broad-shouldered, always smiling like he knew something you didn't. His friends, Derek, Caleb, and Noah Trent, were his echo chamber. If Marco laughed, they laughed louder. Physical education class was hell. That afternoon still plays in my head like a broken recording. We were finishing a soccer unit. I was already exhausted, praying no one would target me. I was jogging toward the bleachers when something slammed into my face. The world exploded. I hit the ground hard, tasting dirt and blood. My glasses skidded across the pavement. Before I could even sit up, another impact, straight to my cheekbone. A soccer ball. Laughter erupted. I looked up just in time to see Marco winding his leg back. Boom! Stars filled my vision. I collapsed backward, my head smacking the ground. My ears rang so loud I thought I was going deaf. "Get up!" someone shouted, between laughs. "Hey, careful! He might break!" another added. A hand grabbed my collar and yanked me upright, only to shove me down again. Marco leaned close enough that I could smell his breath. "Why do you even exist?" he whispered. "Do everyone a favor and disappear." They walked away laughing while I stayed there, face in the dirt, surrounded by the sound of sneakers and mockery. Not one person helped me up. Not one. I stood on my own, shaking, wiping mud off my face with my shirt, pretending I wasn't crying. That day broke something inside me. When I got home, I locked my bedroom door and collapsed onto my bed. The tears came fast and violent, fueled by rage I didn't know I had. I wasn't sad anymore. I was done. This wasn't a bad week. This wasn't a rough year. This had been my entire life. I fell asleep feeling trapped, like I was suffocating in a world that had already decided I didn't belong. When I woke up, nothing felt better. That was the worst part. The realization that tomorrow would be exactly the same. I opened my laptop, desperate for escape. Social media only made it worse. Perfect faces, perfect bodies, smiling couples, friends tagging each other in moments I was never invited to. It felt like the entire internet was laughing at me. That's when the anger changed. It stopped burning outward and turned inward. Dark thoughts crept in, dangerous ones, thoughts I'd never admit out loud. I closed social media and opened Google. I wasn't sure what I was searching for. A solution, a way out, something to make the pain stop. That's when I found them. Forums, anonymous blogs, stories of people who had been pushed too far, people who decided they were done being victims. Threads titled things like, "Justice the system won't give you," and "When the law fails." One phrase kept appearing, "An eye for an eye." I read for hours, my heart racing, my hands trembling. Then I saw the article, "How to Access the Deep Web." It described a hidden layer of the internet where rules didn't apply, where anything could be bought, anything could be erased. Curiosity mixed with desperation. Could this place hold answers? I downloaded the browser, followed the steps, entered the address. The page that loaded looked primitive. Black background, green text, endless links that felt wrong, like doors you weren't meant to open. One link stopped me cold. Problem solvers, discrete removals. I told myself it was fake, a scam, some edgy joke. But I clicked anyway. The page described services offered. No details, no photos, just promises, elimination, silence, permanence. My stomach twisted. I thought of Marco's smile, Derek's laughter, the way teachers looked away. One package caught my eye. Free trial, problem identification. I don't know why I clicked. Maybe part of me didn't believe it was real. A form appeared. Enter names, enter locations. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then they started moving. Marco Henson, Derek Lowe, Caleb Price, Noah Trent. I added addresses, information anyone could find online. Then, without thinking, I added another name. Mr. Alvarez, my math teacher, the one who once accused me of cheating and made me stay after school, ignoring my explanation, ignoring my shaking hands. The total appeared at the bottom. $27,000. Payment required. Bitcoin only. I laughed bitterly. I didn't even have $20. I moved the cursor to close the page. Instead, a pop-up appeared. "Do you have the amount to cancel?" Yes, no. I frowned. Who asks that? Annoyed, I clicked. No. Another page opened. It asked for my information. Name, address. Below it, in bold letters, "Payment responsibility confirmation." I hesitated, but I was angry. Tired. 15 minutes earlier, the world had already crushed me. So I typed. I hit submit. The screen flickered. A list appeared titled, "Active Entries." All the names I entered were there. At the bottom of the list, separate from the rest, was my name. Next to it, "Collection Pending." My mom called me for dinner. I shut the laptop and forgot about it. For weeks, nothing happened. Life continued, miserable, predictable. Then one morning, Marco wasn't at the school entrance. No jokes, no shove. By lunch, none of them had shown up. By the end of the day, whispers filled the halls. The next morning, our homeroom teacher stood at the front of the class, eyes red, hands shaking. "Students," she said, voice cracking. "There was an accident last night." She listed the names. Marco, Derek, Caleb, Noah. 4 separate incidents. 4 dead teenagers. I felt my blood drain. I told myself it was coincidence, tragedy, anything but the truth. Then, during third period, Mr. Alvarez lifted his coffee mug. He froze. His face turned blue. The mug slipped from his hand, shattered on the floor. He collapsed. Dead. Screams filled the classroom. I ran. I didn't stop running until I reached my street. That night, a black sedan followed me. The next thing I remember was waking up in a dark room. A man in black stood over me. "You don't steal from us," he said calmly. "You ordered a service. Services aren't free." I didn't mean. Intent doesn't matter. I was found 2 weeks later. Alive. Missing parts of myself I'll never get back. They said someone made an anonymous call. I don't know who. I only know one thing. The dark web always collects its debt. The year was 1998. The year France won its first World Cup. The year the Euro was born. The year dial-up internet screamed through phone lines like a wounded animal. And the year I was 15, when I learned that some corners of the internet were never meant to be found. I grew up in Salem, Oregon, a quiet town wrapped in pine trees and permanent gray skies. Back then, computers were still considered luxuries. My parents kept ours in the living room, a bulky beige machine with a monitor deeper than it was wide. Internet access meant no phone calls, so everything I did online felt rushed, stolen, temporary. That afternoon, I was using the computer for a history assignment, researching authoritarian regimes in Europe, specifically Spain under Franco. It was boring, slow work. Each page took forever to load, images arriving line by line, like ghosts forming out of static. That's when the IRC message popped up. It was from my friend Tyler Mason, who lived a few blocks away. "Tyler, hey, a guy at school showed me something insane you can do on a computer." Me, "Like what?" Tyler, "Trust me, do this exactly." He sent me instructions. "Start arrow, run arrow. Type this address." The URL looked strange. Not a website, not anything I recognized. Just a string of numbers, slashes, and letters that meant nothing to me. I hesitated. Then I typed it in. A black window opened. Not a web page, something else. It looked like a command prompt, but cleaner. 3 fields appeared, 2 boxes for text, and 1 command line beneath them. Tyler. Okay. In the first box, type your real name. Second box, make a password. Last line, type Wario. I laughed. Wario? Like Mario? Tyler. Just do it. I typed exactly what he said. The window froze for a second. Then another prompt appeared asking for a nickname. I didn't want to use my real name again. On impulse, I typed no name. The window closed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a new file opened on its own. White text on a black background. Welcome to the Oregon Artifact chat user. No name has joined. That's how it started. I didn't know who created the chat room. I didn't know where it was hosted. Tyler didn't know either. It just existed. The strangest part was that it only worked locally. If you weren't in Oregon, or at least nearby, it wouldn't connect. That's what made it feel special. Like a hidden frequency only a few of us could tune into. Most nights, it was just me and Tyler. Sometimes Marcus Bell, a kid from our high school who lived across town, would show up. Once, a user named Gridline77 claimed he worked tech support for an insurance company in Portland, but he left abruptly after asking where we went to school. We never used real names in the chat. It felt safer that way. I don't know why we preferred that place over AOL or ICQ. Maybe because it felt secret, unofficial, like we'd found a locked door everyone else walked past. Months went by. Then one morning in October, something changed. I logged in before school and saw a line of text that made my stomach drop. System. User. No name has been granted administrator access. I stared at the screen. Admin access meant power. I could edit messages, change usernames, silence people, rewrite chat history if I wanted to. I had no idea who gave it to me. But I won't lie, I loved it. For a few days, I bragged to Tyler and Marcus. I made small changes, harmless ones. Changing Tyler's text to make it look like he'd typed embarrassing things, replacing curse words with nonsense. Mostly, though, I didn't use the powers. I didn't know how. And something about the system menus made me uneasy. Tabs labeled Archive, Observation, Local Access. Things that didn't feel like they belonged in a simple chat room. Then one night, I noticed something new. A section labeled Anonymous Messages to Administrators. It had never had anything in it before. That night, it wasn't empty. There were dozens of messages, all from the same user. S6754. They weren't sent all at once. They were fragments, broken across time, like someone typing whenever they could. They won't let me leave the house. My dad checks the locks every night. I sneak online when they sleep. I saw this chat open on his computer. My chest tightened. I typed back. "Who are you?" No response. Another message appeared. If I don't say something, he'll hurt me. I told myself it was fake. A troll. Someone messing with us. I replied again, more firmly. "If this is real, you need to tell the police." The response came slower this time. "He is the police." That's when the chat froze. The text stopped scrolling. The cursor stopped blinking. An error message appeared. Connection terminated. I tried to reopen the program. Nothing. The address no longer worked. The chat room, the thing that had been part of my daily life for almost a year, was gone. I was furious. I called Tyler. He couldn't connect either. Marcus said the same. Our secret place had vanished overnight. 2 days later, I was watching the local news with my parents. A headline crawled across the bottom of the screen. 16-year-old girl found dead in suburban Salem home. The reporter's voice was flat, practiced. The girl had tried to escape through her bedroom window. Her mother was in custody. Her father was missing. They didn't release the girl's name. But then came the part that made my blood run cold. Police had found detailed written descriptions on the family computer. Descriptions of teenage boys. Boys identified only by nicknames. Tyler. No name. Marcus. And one more. The report said the father had written about watching them, imagining them, planning what he would do if he ever found them. The details were too disturbing to share on air. The man was never caught. The computer was confiscated, and the investigation quietly faded from the news. I never logged into that chat room again, because I couldn't. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear the sound of dial-up connecting in my head, and I wonder how long he had been watching us, and how close he came. This happened many years ago, back when Silk Road 1.0 was still alive, thriving, and whispered about like some digital myth you weren't supposed to believe in. Back then, people didn't talk openly about the dark web. It wasn't a YouTube topic. It wasn't a Netflix documentary. It was something you only learned about from the wrong people, in the wrong rooms, late at night. I was living in Cleveland, Ohio, renting a cramped one-bedroom apartment above a closed-down laundromat. The walls smelled faintly of bleach and damp concrete, and the heating barely worked in winter. I was in my mid-20s, broke, restless, and constantly chasing the next escape. At the time, I was looking for a specific substance, something that used to be easy to find. A few years earlier, it was everywhere. Now, suddenly, it had vanished. Dealers were charging insane prices or offering sketchy substitutes that barely worked. was frustrating. People started whispering about alternatives, about places where supply never dried up. That's when a friend, someone who lived half his life in dive bars and the other half in back rooms, leaned in close one night and said, "You ever heard of Tor?" I hadn't. He explained it in vague terms. A browser, a network, addresses that didn't exist on Google, a place called Silk Road where you could buy and sell almost anything. He said it like a warning and an invitation. A few nights later, curiosity won. I downloaded Tor, the onion router. The name alone felt ominous, like something layered, hidden, designed to make sure you never saw the core. When Tor finally connected, the screen went blank for a moment, then loaded a page that looked almost primitive. No ads, no colors, just text, links, and cold efficiency. And there it was, Silk Road. It looked like Craigslist had been rebuilt by criminals. Listings, categories, vendors with star ratings and long review histories. Everything ran on Bitcoin, which back then still felt like monopoly money for tech nerds and paranoids. I remember thinking how surreal it all felt. Illegal, sure, but organized, polite, almost professional. I made an account and posted a simple request, the way people did back then. Looking for mushrooms, please respond. It felt stupid, exposed, like shouting into a dark forest. I hit publish. The next morning my post was gone. No explanation, no notification. I assumed I'd messed up. Maybe I broke a rule. Maybe I wasn't meant to post publicly. A few days later, a private message arrived. The sender's name was Cinderfox. He said he had exactly what I was looking for. We talked. At first, it was strictly business. Quantities, shipping methods, escrow. But then the conversation drifted. He joked. He told stories. He seemed normal, friendly. That should have been the red flag, because charming drug dealers are dangerous for a reason. Before I knew it, I had agreed to send him nearly $1,000 in Bitcoin, more than double what I planned to spend. I only had $400 saved for this. The rest came from rent money, utilities, groceries, everything I needed to survive the month. I told myself it would be fine. The plan was simple. He'd send me 1 ounce per week for 5 weeks. Spacing shipments reduced risk. I could sell a bit, cover my losses, and be back on my feet. It all sounded logical, professional, foolproof. The payment went through. The escrow timer started. And then, nothing. A week passed, then 2. No package, no messages. When I checked my inbox, Cinderfox's account was gone, vanished, no warning, no explanation, just erased. That's when the reality hit me. I'd been scammed, hard. I felt sick, ashamed, furious at myself. But panic hit harder than pride, because rent was due in 2 weeks, and I had no backup plan. I did the only thing I could think of. I left a negative review. I wrote everything. How he disappeared, how he stole my money, how anyone who dealt with him would lose everything. Do not do business with this user. He will steal your money. I hit submit. For a moment, it felt like justice. That feeling didn't last. The attack happened 3 nights later. I was walking home from a late shift at a warehouse job I'd picked up to survive. The streetlights flickered as usual, casting long shadows across the cracked sidewalks. I heard footsteps behind me. I sped up. So did they. I started running. I didn't make it far. Something slammed into my back, knocking the breath out of me. I hit the pavement hard. Before I could scream, a hand clamped over my mouth. The last thing I saw before blacking out was a yellow-toothed smile and a face lined with old scars. When I woke up, my vision swam. I was strapped to a table. Concrete walls, cold air. Medical equipment surrounded me. Monitors, trays, tubing, all too clean for a place like that. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. A man stood above me, smiling slowly, like he was savoring the moment. He picked up a needle, too large, too deliberate, and handed it to someone else wearing a hospital gown. Then everything went dark again. The next time I woke up, I was lying on the same street where I'd been attacked. Police lights painted the buildings red and blue. Officers were shouting. Someone was checking my pulse. I was alive. Barely. Later, in the hospital, I learned the truth. I was missing a kidney. My left hand was gone. And something else. Something I still can't bring myself to think about for too long. The police never found who did it. No witnesses, no cameras, no leads. I tried to forget the dark web after that. Tried to rebuild my life. I worked non-stop. Sold what little I owned. Paid my bills $1 painful at a time. Months passed. One night, exhausted and numb, I logged back onto the computer. Against my better judgment, I checked Silk Road. And there it was. A new message. Hello, I'm a trusted Silk Road vendor. I saw your review. He said he'd been scammed by the same man. Said he believed in retaliation. He told me he had sold the scammer several ounces of MDMA, took full payment, then mailed him a pound of sugar and a note. He even included the scammer's real name. Then he asked, "Is there anything else you'd like this user to suffer from?" My hands trembled. This wasn't justice. This was something else. Something darker. I told him no. He said the man would suffer enough on his own. Then he asked for my wallet address and the amount I'd lost. I told him the truth. The next morning, the money was back in my wallet. Every cent. I felt something return to me that day. Not relief, not happiness. Something colder. Respect. Fear. And the understanding that the dark web doesn't forget. It balances. I never logged into Silk Road again. But sometimes, late at night, I still wonder, if I had asked for more, would it have been granted?